Hey, several of you have asked me to do some videos on reloading, so I'm going to do that. But first, this video is an introduction to get your head right for doing reloading. And this series is going to be focused on reloading handgun ammunition. That's the ammunition has a straight wall and doesn't go in a long gun, for you guys that didn't know. Now, for mindset, I have to say this. I was taught by someone who really knew what they were doing reloading. That was my introduction to it. I was like being an apprentice to somebody. If you have the opportunity to hang out with somebody and learn how to do it I encourage you to do that. In many places, there are actually reloading classes, and you should do that. I don't reload for competition. I don't have the little thing with the antenna that measures how fast it goes and none of that, because I want combat effective hits out to 300 yards with a rifle and inside of 25 yards with a handgun. So I don't have the tools to get precision that way, and it's not necessary for most of us to do self-defense shooting, and you go to the range and train a lot. So if you can get some training, if you can get someone to walk you through it, I really encourage you to do that. Otherwise, if you didn't pass reading, don't do reloading. If you believe that using manual brute force when something isn't going right is good, reloading isn't for you. If you're easily frustrated by some small things not working well, reloading isn't for you. If you didn't do well or didn't even take high school science, stop here, go take a class, or you're going to blow up your stupid gun. Now, why do I say that? Because you have to know, this might sound silly, you have to know how to count. You have to know how to measure in small quantities of powder, and you have to be able to measure with a micrometer. If you don't know what a micrometer is, stop, go take a class. And if you're one of those guys that don't believe in limits or don't believe in reading the instructions, stop, don't even think about reloading. So what do you need? What kind of stuff do you need? Well, it's not a lot, but what is necessary is important. So I'm going to go through each one of the things that you need as a minimum to do handgun, pistol, ammunition reloading. So the first thing you really need to have is a place to work. Now, you don't need to go and build a whole desk and workbench in a man cave somewhere. This is a portable, lightweight, sturdy reloading stand. And it has everything you need to do reloading of pistol ammo. It has all the workspace you need, and it's very comfortable. Now, some things that I took into consideration, since I live in an apartment and I don't want to gorp up the work area, you need to have a work area that's about 5 feet by 4 feet. And that includes the area where you will be standing to work, which is this area covered by that blanket. I put that down there to catch a little bit of powder that might drop off and some primers that might drop off. But that's pretty much what you need, and that's the workspace that you need. This little guy, and I'll bring it down. I have another video about this. But this is a reloading stand from Frankfurt Arsenal, and you can find them on Amazon. Now that you have a place to work, you need the most critical, one of the most critical things, and that is a reloading press. That's what this is. This whole device here is a press, and it's designed to hold the cartridge or the shell in here, and you move the handle, and you see the piston goes up, And then various activities that you're going to do with the cartridge all happen here. This is called a single stage press. Mine happens to be an RCBS rock chucker. I really like this press. There are others out there, but hey, I like this one and it works really well, and I've done thousands and thousands and thousands of rounds using this guy. It is a machine, so for you guys, the shiny part, yeah, keep it lubed a little bit and oiled. Don't let it get stuck, because things do get dirty. Now the next thing you're going to need is a series of dies. These are things that fit and screw into the top of that press that I just showed you. These happen to be the dies for the ammunition that I reload. I do all my own 223 5.56 ammo, 357 Magnum, 38 Special. I pretty much do 357 Magnum only now, and 45 ACP. Each one of these, I'm going to open one up and show you, has dies in them for various operations. Now, I'm an absolute fan of the Hornady dyes, and I'll show you why in a second. Some die kits have 3 things in them, some have 2. For 45 ACP, which is this kit, you have 3 dies. This one is to punch the primer out, the spent primer, out of the bottom of the cartridge and resize the cartridge so that it's back to its normal shape after going through the pressures in the chamber. The next operation that you'll do with a die is, on this one, is the very, very top of the cartridge where you're going to put the bullet needs to be widened just a titch to make it easier to seat the bullet so you can press it in. That's what this die is for. And then the final die, which is where Hornady rocks. This is why if you're going to do reloading, just save yourself a bunch of pain and get Hornady dies. The reason for that is this little sleeve right here. This is proprietary to, hear that? It's pretty cool. This is proprietary to Hornady, and it's a titanium nitride sleeve. 2 things happen. This comes down over the bullet and makes it very easy to seat the bullet, and the bullet doesn't go cattywampus on top and frustrate you. The second thing is, because it's titanium nitride, you don't have to lubricate the case, which is one step you can do away with. So, if you're going to do reloading, save yourself a lot of pain. I don't care what cartridge you're using, because the sleeve is on each one of these. Go with Hornady. You won't be sorry that you did. Now, remember I said you really have to know how to read, and you have to be willing to read the instructions. What I mean is all of the instructions. There's not a lot, but what comes in every die kit is how to adjust the dies, right? Read this stuff, right? Pay attention. Don't be drinking any wine or beer or whiskey or whatever you do. Read this, then deal with your dies. If you have any questions, call the vendor, the manufacturer, or if you're taking a class, do that. But if you do this part wrong, you run the risk of damaging your cartridges, or worse, ending up with a result that blows up your gun. The next thing you need is a powder hopper. This is where you'll store your powder. Not store it, but where you put it when you're doing your reloading. And this handle cycles the right amount of powder from the hopper down through here and comes out under here in your cartridge. You raise up the cartridge, and then the powder, the right amount of powder, goes in there. Now, measuring this is where you measure the amount of powder. You turn this forward or back to increase or decrease the amount of powder that you want to go into the cartridge. It's extremely important that you not be in a hurry and that you deal with this. And what did I say before? Read the instructions on how to adjust this that come with it. This is RCBS as well.
I happen to like it a lot, and it's done a fantastic job for me. So that's the next thing you'll need. When it's time to replace with new primers, that's the little teeny things that go on the bottom that the striker hits to make it go bang, you're going to do that manually. You're going to do that shell by shell, and you're going to need a handheld primer setter. The cartridge goes in here. It fits right in that slot. And your supply of primers, about 100, will go in there. I never do more than 100 at a batch for two reasons. One, because it allows you to stop and take a break and not make mistakes. And two, that's about the comfortable amount that will fit inside this case. Now, this is, you got it, RCBS. Obviously, you can tell I'm a fan of RCBS. But you can get some really cheap handheld tools. One, they're going to frustrate you. They're not going to work as smoothly as you need them to. They will break when you least want them to break. They're made out of cheap-ass plastic. Get this, it's an aluminum case. Everything is industrial strength. It works great. So you'll need to get one of these. They're not expensive at all. Next, you will need a scale to measure the powder amount that's going to go into the cartridge for the ammo that you're loading. And it will vary based on the type of bullet and the type of cartridge. Read the instructions or call and get information. There's a lot of information out there. This is a digital scale. There are others that are regular mechanical scales. I happen to prefer this because it's light. I mean, it's easy to adjust and calibrate. The way this works is you load amount of powder in a cartridge, you dump it in here, you see if it's the right amount. If it is not, you go back to this little screw I talked about and you adjust it until the right amount weight shows here. This is really important. You cannot get in a hurry when you're determining the measure. By the way, Hornady, yes, electronic scale, this is the GS 1500. They have different models and sizes depending on what you do. This was not expensive either. But you will need a scale. The easiest way for you to do it is to get something that's going to work for you. And what? Read the instructions. If you don't know how to use a scale, you didn't do well in high school science, stop and go take a class. If you don't know what this is, stop and go take a class. This is a micrometer. It's a mechanical micrometer. There are some that are digital, so instead of the round dial, they have a window. I prefer to look at a round dial. That's just my personal preference from using these things for many years. You use this tool to measure the overall length of the finished cartridge, and you adjust the die that will be in the press until you get the correct length. Now, if you don't know how to use a micrometer, again, stop and go take a class, because this is important. And you are measuring things in thousandths of an inch, and it is really important because with larger caliber bullets, the more powder you have. If you don't do that correctly, you put way too much pressure inside the cartridge, and guess what? You blow up your bolt if it's an AR, you blow up your gun if it's a regular gun. So this is important, and you have to not be in a hurry. For this, I prefer Lyman, and I have a couple other Lyman tools I'll show you. But this is the Lyman stainless steel dial caliper. Get them in any place that sells reloading equipment or online, and I recommend that. That's the item number. When you start dealing with rifle ammunition, one of the things that's going to be important is the size of the cartridge, right? And there's a maximum size of the cartridge that if it exceeds that, and that's that number over here, you will need to trim down the cartridge. Since that's a pain in the butt, I do have trimmers, but I just don't want to deal with it. I put my 223 ammo right in here in that little area, and if the round won't fit, I just throw it away. I don't even deal with it. And that's the first step that I do before I even deprime the brass. I size it in here. It's tedious. That's one thing you can do, drinking a beer and drinking a glass of wine, because it's not dangerous. It either fits or it doesn't fit. If it doesn't fit, you throw it away. This saves you a bunch of time in the long run. Yes, Lyman. And you can get this at any store. Now, when you put powder into the cartridge, that means the powder comes from here into the cartridge. What do you do with the cartridge? You stand it up in here. And you stand the next one, and you stand the next one. That's why they call it hand loading, boys and girls, right? This is a case holder. This is from RCBS, and it has two sides to it because you can hold everything up to a 50 cal cartridge in here. So almost anything that you're going to reload, one of these will do. Each one of these is is 50 rounds. I have two, so that's 100 rounds. Why? Because I just reload in 100 round increments. Then it forces me to stop what I'm doing and recheck calibration, recheck powder measure, and some other things. So it's a safety thing, and it's a brake as well. So these are RCBS. You can find these anywhere, but you will need to have them because where are you going to put your brass, right? So you got to have this.
You will need to clean your brass before you start doing some of the other functions. What I do is after I deprime, that is, I plop the primer, the used primer out, then I start the cleaning process. Now, there are tubs that you put, material in, and it polishes the brass and all that kind of crap. I like chemistry, so this is an ultrasonic, a digital ultrasonic cleaner. It works great. It's called the Turbosonic, and it's from, guess who? Lyman. And you go and get some liquid like this, Lyman's Turbosonic. They're in the same area. There's one for cleaning steel, and there's one for cleaning brass. Use the one for cleaning brass, okay? It's real simple. Brass goes in there. Put the solution in first. It tells you how to measure how many ounces for how many ounces of water. There's a maximum line. You don't want to exceed that. You put your cartridges in there. Put the top on. Hit the button. Read the instructions that came with it. They're simple, but read the instructions. It'll tell you how to do it. And in about 12 minutes instead of 8 hours, you're going to have pretty clean, usable brass for your reloading. Highly recommend this instead of getting, and this thing is quiet. Those tubs that you tumble stuff in are they're just a pain in the butt. They're loud. And like I said, I'm not making jewelry to sell at the art store. I'm trying to clean brass so I can do reloading. And this does an excellent job. So I highly recommend it. That's the basic stuff that you need to start your reloading experience. I have done thousands and thousands of rounds using the equipment that I just showed you. And again, I do in 100 round increments up to 500 rounds, because I like to make sure I have 500 rounds in the hanger for whatever firearm I'm doing. So as I deplete 500 rounds, I will reload 500 rounds, but I will do that in 100 round increments. Again, that's for safety, convenience, and to just take a break, because let me tell you how much time it's going to take. Hang on. So it takes about 4 seconds per round to do 4 steps in the process. So if you're going to do 100 rounds, that comes out, I'm going to round up, that's about 30 minutes. So it's about 30 minutes. That's if you didn't stop. You went through each process 100 times each, so it's 400 tasks, right, manually. That's about 30 minutes. If you're going to do 500 rounds, which I've done, you're talking about a couple hours, 3 hours. It's unlikely that you're going to just stand there for 2 hours doing that. So my rule of thumb is 2 calendar days per 500 rounds. And that allows other stuff to get in the way, pet the dog, whatever else you do, and you can come back. So it's not a grind or a chore. So it's just that's an expectation you should have in your mind. So I shoot about 100 rounds in a 1 hour range session. So I know that I just, for every hour I shoot, you know, that's another 30 minutes to an hour I'm going to spend reloading. And it's worth it. Now this pistol ammo, for rifle ammo, it's going to be a bit more per round. And we'll talk about that later. So I hope this was helpful for those of you that have been thinking about reloading. Let me know what your comments are, what's helpful. If I missed anything, let me know that too. So thanks for watching. Carry on.